Okay, so here's the next part of this project. A profile view of the door, you have the standard 2-inch thick steel frame door, roll-up garage door. At the top, you have a reinforcement beam that generally keeps the door nice and rigid. It's about 2 inches deep, like that. So this is the top up here. The wall of the building comes down about 1.5 inches below the top of the door. And on that wall, on the outer jamb of the door, you have your standard, on the outer part of the door, you have a vinyl gasket type mechanism, the standard wiper type. Now I have actually put a double wiper on that, just to get a little better, because this door, when the wind blows, because it's so large, it's 10 feet tall and 12 wide, the door will flex in and out, and you'll get a little bit of leakage, little seepage. Even if it's done optimally, you get air seepage, and I want to stop that. Plus the fact you have all this steel right here that's conducting cold air or pulling the heat away from the building. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of 2-inch of the styrene insulation board, 4.5 inches tall, and I'm going to bond it on top of this steel frame. And then between here and here, I'll use the 2-inch, now that's not to scale, obviously that's not a square, but I'm going to use the 2.25 inch gasket material that I'm going to be using on the door to act as a seal. I'm going to bond it to the top of the styrofoam board. So when the door rolls down, as it travels through its arc, that gasket will push right up against the wall and give us a nice dead air space and seal. To make it a little stronger though, I'm going to take, this is the additional insulation I've added. I'm going to add an additional piece of styrofoam. I'm going to bond it to the header board I'm putting up here and the existing foam. So this bond right here will be very strong, and I think it should hold up over time. So this is 2-inch, that's 2-inch, and this is 2.25 inch foam block. Here's my 2-inch foam that I've added to the door. This is the existing door. So that way when the door rolls up through its arc, this gasket will pull back away. When it comes back down, it'll compress about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. And that should give us a good tight air seal up there. What we want to do is we want to capture as much of the air leaks as possible, as well as providing an insulating factor, so we won't be pumping heat outside the building. That's the plan right there. A little Southern engineering. I'll show you how I clamp these things. As you can see, I'm putting tension, just furring strips tied off to the hinge points of the door where I could, and then just tensioned with some foam blocks to hold everything in alignment while the foam slowly cures. In this temperature it cures a little slow, so should be no problem at all. By tomorrow it'll be ready to do something with. I'm going to put my secondary brace here to here, from here to here, about 8 inches. That should be enough to make it strong. Okay, one of the last things we're going to do is I'm going to put a reinforcement edge up there on that top beam piece. I cut a piece of foam. It's 9 inches, and I got a 45 at the top and a 30-degree bevel at the bottom, mostly for decoration. Partly though is if anything should by chance fall on top of the door and get trapped on a square lip when you open the door, it would fall off on you. Dust, bugs, things like that. The idea here is it won't stay there. Anyway, I'm going to mount these a little different. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bond some little standoffs up there with some of the adhesive so that the foam boards are held off. Okay, here's the little foam pieces. They're 5/16 thick and about 1 inch square. And I'm just going to attach them up there strategically to stand off the reinforcement. And then I'm going to inject foam behind them. The 5/16 was chosen because it gives me enough room to get easily in there with that straw that comes on the expanding foam cans. So here we go. Here's what we got. We got 5/16 standoffs, and we're just going to mount the foam. Looks pretty good. Yep. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, the screws are there just temporary to pin that thing. Once the adhesive bonds that foam together on those little standoffs, then I'll inject foam behind it, and I'll of course put some clamps on it. But for now, that'll work. Well, there it is. I got the reinforcement panel up there. Now, once the adhesive sets, it's late tonight. I want to call it a day. The adhesive's got to set for at least a couple hours, so I'm not even going to mess with it tonight. Tomorrow I'll come out. I'll put the wood braces on it to lock it in, pull those screws out, and inject foam behind it. And after 2-3 hours, I should be able to pull it and carve it. And for the most part, that finishes up the, I don't know what you call I guess a ridge beam. Now there's what we got. The header beam is all bonded to it. There's a 5/16 gap between the door panel and the beam panel. And of course I glued it up. You've seen me earlier. I had glued the pads to hold it in place. And the wood is just there so in case it tries to swell and push its way out. Just in case, extra little clamp. Never hurt to have too many clamps. Anyway, I'm going to take it easy now. It's headed into the weekend. And I'm doing no more work on this tonight. Tomorrow I'll come in and clear up that foam, do some last little cleanup, and then probably put a coat of paint on because it's about to that point. Then I can get the foam in there and get the gaskets sealed in the joints. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. It's supposed to be close to 50 by Monday or thereabouts. It'd be a good time to check some things outside. I want to see how much the door weighs. It originally weighed 13 pounds. I had 13 pounds of downforce at the gasket on the door. Be interesting to see what kind of downforce I have from that door now. I think I calculated about 40 pounds more. I don't know, I'll have to look it up. But of course that foam and wood will make a difference. Not to mention the 15 to 20 cans of foam I put in, and some that I've cut out, of course. Then the gasket material, and then the marker board. All that's going to add up. It's going to be close to 100 pounds, I think, by the time this is all said and done. So those torsion springs up there are going to have to be torqued a bit. I believe they'll be okay for the force. If they break, I'll just have to get some stronger ones. This is the foam gaskets I'm going to use for the door seams between the panels. It's a 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 by 42-inch long piece of foam. It's designed for air conditioners, window air conditioners. It's perfectly suited for the size of gap that I've left between these panels, which is exactly 2 inches. Give or take maybe a 1/16. Variances in the foam, spacing and such, but it's smaller than 2 1/4. So the foam gasket's got to be compressed a little bit to fit in there. The depth of the seam is 2 1/4 inches because the foam board is actually spaced out from the steel frame just a touch as I filled the foam in behind, or in earlier videos. Now, I've considered whether I should bond this foam in initially or just stuff it in and hope it holds. I think what I would like to do is just, I'm going to push it in there and fit it to place and allow friction of the surface, because where I painted the edges of these panels, it's very rough, almost like a Velcro grip, and I'm hoping that will hold in place. I have to cut relief cuts for these hinges. I'm just going to use my trusty razor knife, and I'm going to slice out a small relief in the foam that should clearance the hinge. And I'm just going to eyeball it. I want it to be clearanced, but I don't need it to be perfect. I don't want to take out any more than necessary, because I still need this to form as not only a air barrier, but I need it also to have just a little, about 1 by 1 inch square. If that's clear enough, you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, now I'm at the top of the door, up by the header, and what you can see here, this is the reinforcement lip, this is the top brace, and inside here, it's kind of hard to see, it's not so well, the contrast are low. This is the foam, and it's bonded to the top edge of the header I put in. This foam is just slightly snug to the wall. Now what you see here is a piece of aluminum, very thin piece. This is 3-inch wide aluminum foil tape they use for air conditioning, ductwork, that kind of thing. Anyway, the idea behind this, while I don't like using the metallic surface, it conducts too much heat. What I want to do is when this door rolls up, it will slide smoothly on this aluminum. At least that's the theory. I haven't opened the door yet, so we're going to find out pretty soon. Next part of the project is we're going to go ahead and get a final coat of paint on this, and then I'm going to mount the marker board. Now, I don't have a 4x8 marker board, so I have to build that yet. I'll probably do a separate video for that in case you're interested. They're pretty simple if you've never done one. Anyway, we'll get back to that later. I just wanted to show you this. Are we videotaping still? We're good? No, don't put your fingers in front of it, honey. All right, hit stop. All right, hit stop.